digital medicine. Let's go a bit further and grab the future. I'm really lucky to be joined by three wonderful participants, but really this is a conversation for everybody. So my goal here is only to moderate. So I'm going to ask anyone who wants to get involved to just raise their hands, and I will try and come to you in the order that you come in. You can also write a question in, but this is a conversation. We have three wonderful participants. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves briefly, and then we have a conversation. We've been told that we've got until 11 o'clock and we're not going back to the main room. So once we've done this conversation, it's a goodbye. So we're not going back into the main room. Just want to make that absolutely clear. So if you haven't left the other one, you're welcome to do so. So I'm going to start with Liz. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Hassan, and thank you for inviting me to join you today. And hopefully what I'm going to share with you will be really useful because it ties in a lot with the speakers that have already spoken this morning. So my name's Liz Ashall-Payne, and I'm the founding chief exec of Orca, which is an organisation that was set up in the UK. Tiny bit of background about me, because I am one of the founders. So I started my career as an NHS clinician and worked across the NHS and the care system for almost 20 years, and then worked internationally. And what I saw were the true barriers to the adoption of digital health and digital therapeutics, and felt really frustrated. And these challenges are not just challenges that we experience in the NHS, they'll be very prevalent on a global scale. And at the core of these barriers to adoption is trust. People are not sure which solutions they can trust, and therefore that puts in a barrier to healthcare systems either buying these products or recommending them to patients. And so Orca was set up to try and break down these barriers. And actually Orca stands for the Organisation for the Review of Care and Health Apps. And so all of those standards, regulations around cybersecurity, clinical safety, etc. What our job is to do is to apply those to digital health solutions, to work out, first of all, whether those products have met that criteria, and then to second, distribute them via local and regional digital health app libraries, which are then promoted to the ecosystem at a local level. As Hassan said at the beginning of this session, the NHS isn't national. There are lots of different parts to it. And that's why we have lots of different libraries, because there's different lenses, and doctors, nurses, therapists, carers can now prescribe or recommend solutions via this system to patients via text message. And we are working also with the NHS. You heard about a couple of procurement frameworks. Anybody who's got a digital health app or a digital therapeutic, you also have another procurement framework, which is with London Procurement Partners, which is called London Procurement Partners, but is a national procurement framework. I'll put the link to that chat. It's free to get on. It's dynamic, so it's open all the time. And people are going there to commission digital health solutions, put them into their local digital health libraries, and then they are prescribable to the patient. So I'll stop there, because otherwise I'll keep talking, as Hassan knows.
Very, very glad to have you there. Now, I've got to admit, I don't know much about Dignio, so I'm looking forward to hearing more. Eva, is that how I pronounce your name?
That's absolutely fine, Hassan. Dignio is a Norwegian company originally. We started in Norway in 2010. We first settled in the UK in 2017. Didn't really achieve much traction, having come in with naivety of expecting the National Health Service to be national. Very quickly learned the hard way, and I hope that we can share our experiences of what we learned. We are great fans of Orca, have always been high on standards and quality and user-friendliness of our solution. And we have gone through the London procurement framework, and we are on various frameworks that look at enabling buyers within the NHS and other organisations to purchase digital healthcare products. We've settled in Birmingham first, established offices elsewhere since, very much harnessing the power of the localized support that is available across multiple regions in the UK. So Great Funds of UK PLC. We also work with West Midlands 5G, and very much enthusiastic about the innovation that is making really great progress, bridging the digital divide for populations using very much a connected approach across different levels of system solutions.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And now I've got to admit also the West Midlands Growth Company, I really do need a full explanation, so over to you.
Thanks, Hassan. Hi everyone again. If everyone that is struggling how to pronounce my name, I'll get that out of the way for you. My name's Uni. As Moyeen has quickly mentioned, we have hosted them as a company as well, working with DIT to help companies to be familiar with the region. So we are part of an inward investment promotion agency. So we promote the area as a business destination, working with partners. We work with over 100 private companies, as well as 7 local authorities, and the universities that I've put up in our slides, which is all 5, where we work closely in conjunction with to help with making the right connections, especially if you're new to a city, new to a whole country, you don't know who to turn to. So we are there to provide that complementary advice as part of that local partnership with the DIT here, and handhold through that journey essentially. So who are the key people in the space? And thankfully in the region we have quite a number of different business support groups, as well as programs available, which we're happy to make that connection with. So hopefully when we all open up, you can visit our Warwick Castle, for those who may be wondering what my background is, and be that friendly face when you first arrive in the UK. And yeah, that's us. We provide that complimentary service and make those right connections as part of that journey.
Excellent. So we've got some wonderful participants also in the room. I think there's 18 of us. So I'm looking forward to some great questions from everybody. I'm going to start with a question to Liz, if that's okay.
Of course.
I'm going to ask you what the DTAC is.
Absolutely. So you'll be very, very aware that there are lots and lots of regulations, lots of standards, lots of best practice guides around 4 big domain areas: data privacy, data security, clinical validity, and usability and accessibility. So those are the 4 big areas. Now, one of the challenges with this regulatory landscape is, first of all, it keeps changing. Second of all, it's not relevant to every product. So depending on what your innovation does, depends on which of these regulations need to be applied. And what we've seen globally actually is the creation of new frameworks. And these assessment frameworks are meant to try and get rid of all of the confusion so that innovators and technologies know what the rules are for the engagement. And the DTAC is basically that. And what the DTAC's trying to do is establish a minimum standard so that everybody knows that if something is DTAC compliant, it can then be procured and used. Now, just one little caveat to that. In the NHS, they do talk about the DTAC, but then they also say that you have to have gone through NICE evidence standard framework pre-procurement, and the evidence standard framework is something that's been created by NICE, and we supported them to build that standard, and this is about assessing evidence of impact, which is really important. So it's a combination of those 2 things, and I've just put in the chat actually how Orca support that to make sure that you are DTAC compliant, and a big part of that is also the evidence standard framework, which we support.
So Liz, one awkward question: should every company coming into the UK speak to you guys?
if you want to get through that process quickly and efficiently, thank you for nodding your head there as well, because what we do is we take out the headache for you. So if you look at the DTAC questions, the first question that you'd have is, well, what does this mean for my product? You've then got to apply all that, and then you've got to turn it into an improvement plan, and then you've got to go back through the loop. So we do that for you. We take all the heavy lifting away, and the reason we want to help you is because we want to get these products in front of people and patients. Our mission is not to review, our mission is to get high quality products to patients so that we can all benefit from them. So yeah, we absolutely want to work with you if you're coming into this country.
Thanks, Liz. Now, I think everyone will agree that Moyeen's story was really interesting. What I'd like to hear about is what would happen if we look at the Dignio story. And you know, I heard a little bit at the beginning, but I'd like to go into a bit more detail. And I want to hear from Uni about what the specific things you can do. And I'd love to draw out some of the needs from the group. So in the group here with us, are you looking for help to settle in an area? Are you looking for help to get through the regulations? Are you looking for someone who's almost like a pathfinder? So you can say, well, they followed this step, I'd like to follow the same kind of step. So please do us the privilege of writing your questions in or raising your hands. Uni, I'm going to start with you then. Some specific things that you guys do in the West Midlands. Now, I know you've touched on some of them, but why are you better than Cornwall? I want to hear, why are you better than Liverpool and Leeds? You know, that's what I want to hear. I know that's a bit of a troublemaking question, but that's my job.
Thanks, Hassan. That's a difficult question, but I'll try my best. But I think one of the key strengths of the area is the fact that we're in the middle of the UK. I'm not just saying that, but you can pretty much point where we are in terms of Birmingham. And we have, because we're in the centre of the rail network, where we can, where Birmingham New Street connects is one of the busiest stations, of main connector stations that goes up north as well as at south as well. Just to give a bit of context for those who may not be familiar, we are only an hour away from London and a further 2 hours to go up to Manchester. So we have worked with clients who may be considering a sales office, for example, and they want to make the most of the market. They base themselves here. And why not London? London is a great place where you can't compete. Such a great city. However, if you are looking for a lower cost base, you can get an office which is up to 50% lower, especially when it comes to a grade A office. So in terms of the support that we can provide, we provide a free service to help you finding a right location for you according to the requirements that you're looking for. Are you looking for a science park? Are you looking for an office space just to start out? There are many of flexible options similar to other regions. However, Birmingham is the second city, so we have a large population of young professionals, and because we have a strong aerospace and automotive sector here, we already have those engineering skills that may be necessary for those that are looking to develop their medical technology. With the skills side as well, we can connect you to the right people with the universities. If you're unsure of whether the skills, the research that you're looking for or support, they have those business support programs in place as well. So it's worth connecting to the right clinicians via those routes, as well as maybe industry as well. So connecting you to those key networking places. So those are some of the bits, but please feel free within the chat if there are any specific support areas. Please feel free to ask me.
Thank you so much, Uni. We had a hand up from Adrian. So Adrian, if you'd like to switch on your camera and mic.
I have done both.
Thank you.
So I do have a regional allegiance, but I'm not going to bring it to the table. But just to say, having helped a number of organisations get into the UK, it depends really, and it relates to what Liz says, on what your product is and what you're trying to achieve. So, you know, if you look at the West Midlands, it's got a population that's as big as some of the Nordic countries. If you go down to Cornwall and you've got a solution that is, you know, you really think is about remote and rural delivery, then you'd want to look into Cornwall. If you're looking to do something that's very 5G enabled, connectivity enabled, then you'd go to the West Midlands because it's the biggest area for 5G and it's got accelerators to support you. So it's hard enough to look at just the NHS and where to start. But in looking at the regions, I think you've got to think very carefully about what fits with my product or my solution, what's going to support me best. Do I like that simplicity that was described in Cornwall? And it's true. One hospital, one trust, it makes it nice and simple. On the other hand, if you want a big population, lots of complexity, then you'd go to a West Midlands or a Leeds. So I think you have to think about that very carefully. And my last comment would just be, where you start on your journey, there are so many different places you could start. You can start in the centre and talk to NHSX and NHS Digital. You can start in an individual location, as you start to get your head around the terminology, an individual CCG or ICS. You can start in one place and really get somebody excited about your solution and then go national. There's not one standard route. And I think all that's reminding everybody is it's about finding somebody who can hold your hand through this process. You really need that partner. And there's more than one of the partners around, but find somebody who wants to get alongside you and help you on that journey. It's what you need.
Thank you so much, Adrian. I should say that I'm really excited about the West Midlands for a couple of reasons. One of them is the Royal Wolverhampton and the work that I've seen from Professor Sultan Mahmood, bringing in Babylon and Zesty and all of these great companies and really advancing digital, but also the integrated care system and how it's developing, the merger of the 4 CCGs in West Birmingham and the Black Country, Dudley and Walsall. So really the moves that are happening in the West Midlands are really exciting and great for companies coming in. I can see Glenn Bilby has his hand up, if I can ask him to come in. And please, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself as you switch on your camera and mic.
There we go. Now you can hear me, right? Hello, yes. Everybody. Glenn Bilby is my name. I work for a company called Quinomatic. We produce software called Movement, which does 3D scanning of people's movement patterns in order to analyze the way they move for triaging and resource allocation, but also for diagnostics. We look outside the body instead of inside the body. I have a question. By the way, I'm really impressed with the UK and the effort put into setting up organisations. DTAC I hadn't heard of, so that's on top of a list that's already very good. I must admit I'm swimming around in lots of different avenues of where to go. We're a small company. I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm also a clinician. So I'm reasonably clever clinically, and I'm reasonably good at running a business. But I must say it's a bit overwhelming looking at all of these different channels that you can go through in the UK. One of the big issues for us small companies is runway. We have limited amounts of money, especially if you're self-financing, which has been our case in the beginning. Another one is attention span. Some of us are doing lots of jobs, i.e. science, admin, human resources management, technology, you know, we're all doing the same thing. And the sort of administrative burden of managing all these fantastic programs that you've launched in the UK can be a little bit overwhelming, I have to say. How many companies, here's my direct question now, how many companies are starting in the private sector as opposed to the NHS in order to get a feel for what's important in the UK? Because the UK is prioritising things differently to Sweden, where we are. We've got customers in the US, they're prioritising things differently again. How many companies are starting themselves in the private sector, in our case, private physiotherapy, private orthopedics, and how many companies are being acquired by other bigger companies like Babylon, which shortcuts the entire process of getting inside the NHS?
Okay, some very interesting questions there, Glenn. Is there anyone on the panel or even in the room who'd like to come in on that? You're welcome to put your hand up if you want to have a go.
I'm happy to jump in first, Glenn, because I completely appreciate what you're saying there. It is complex and there's so many different ways that you can go. And I think this comes back to what was said just before, which is if you can be really focused on what you want to achieve and by when, and then basically eat the elephant in spoons with a spoon rather than trying to eat the whole elephant. The ultimate foundation layer, though, is that trust. Trust is globally the biggest reason for non-adoption of digital health, and as a clinician you'll completely understand that. As clinicians, we're not trained in this stuff, we're not made aware, and therefore we're not necessarily trusting of it. And that's why, you know, to use the standards and use the regulatory compliance as an opportunity to first of all differentiate yourself in the marketplace and to also build that trust. The next thing I would say is also then find a partner to work with. And I would suggest, again, it's eating the elephant with a spoon. So find an organisation within the NHS, if you can, or outside the NHS is fine, to do a piece of work. Once you can prove that your product is actually having an impact within the NHS will then follow suit. I'm not saying it's easy, but you also then need to get yourself on a procurement framework, because getting things procured from the NHS's side is really, really hard. It's not just hard from our side from an innovation point of view, it's also really hard on the NHS side. So definitely find at least a framework that you can get on, and I think you've had 3 or 4 suggested. What we're seeing in the marketplace is huge increases in the adoption of digital health and digital therapeutics. So across our platforms, we've seen 6,500% increase in the number of healthcare professionals recommending tools to their patients. So that gives you an indication as to the direction of travel. NICE, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, are also recommending that healthcare professionals recommend digital health. So that's a real policy push as well. From an acquisition point of view, I think we're not in a UK environment. We're not seeing huge amounts of acquisitions. We're seeing a lot more partnerships, and I think that is exactly the right way to go. So rather than bigger companies swallowing up smaller companies, working in partnership so that everybody gets the benefit. And I think that we're really seeing that from an industry perspective. So I definitely recommend the partnerships.
Some fabulous answers there, Liz. I would have to say that there isn't anything you can hear from people that's going to give you the perfect answer. You really do need to speak to a lot of different people to find out what's great for you. But Liz has given you the right framework for you to find it. I would add one thing, if I could, just very, very small thing, which is that you're going to have 100 options in front of you, and you could spend 10 years pressing all of those 100 buttons. The trick is to work out which of those buttons are going to get you in the system and then push all of your weight onto it. And that's really what Orca are able to help you get rid of the noise, right? You don't have to worry about all those other things, so you can find that. And that's where Uni will be able to help you get rid of all the worries of where do you set up and how do you set up. And I think, Eva, if you wouldn't mind explaining how you didn't get overwhelmed, because I think that's something that I'm finding lots of people are thinking. You've told me about the Spark DPS, right? The Dynamic Purchasing System, NHSX. Should I go with that? Is that my way in? And I do nothing else.
Yeah, just one caveat on Spark DPS. Unless the conditions have changed substantially, you have to be able to demonstrate that you have deployed somewhere and have a confirmation letter from an organization with whom you deployed, either NHS organization or someone who's a supplier of services to the NHS. So your other route in, Glenn, is actually talking to organizations which can be social enterprises or commercial organizations which actually sell additional services out of our care, physio services to the NHS, because they understand the landscape and they can be really helpful. Touching upon Liz's point on you need to build up the trust and you need to operate in a very collaborative manner. So it's not a question of you will come in and you'll bring a brilliant proposal and they'll all go, yes, we want to buy it. It's more a question of you have to understand the market, which will take a lot of homework, but also be prepared to adjust once you understand the different pathways of delivery within different levels of care, you will need to do a little bit of tweaking to either the way your product is sold, presented, or delivered, or the actual technology itself. So be prepared for a bit of a journey. It's not impossible, but it's not on a silver plate either. So working with key stakeholders like ORCA, like AHSNs, like regional organizations can really make a difference to remove that noise. We're still finding ourselves navigating a very complex landscape, and we're incredibly grateful to all the support we're getting from colleagues both within the NHS and also from the supporting organizations. Otherwise, it could be a nightmare at a glance if you just look from outside in. But it's not impossible, and other foreign companies have traversed the landscape successfully. It's understanding the beast that you are dealing with and getting lots of help from people in the know.
Eva, if you don't mind me asking one more question, is it a dedicated role? Like, do you need a full-time person to manage this in the UK?
We started off with a consultant for a couple of years. We didn't get much traction. Then we decided to change our strategy and focus on people who actually are within the healthcare economy system and have some background within that system. And that worked better. It depends how quickly you want to go. But definitely having at least part-time UK representation is beneficial, because you need this linchpin one point of contact for all the stakeholders in the UK to be spending time reaching out to them, preferably someone who already knows the landscape. And again, be careful with your selection, because there's a lot of consultants in the UK. And that's, again, where stakeholders in the know, like HSNs, regional agencies, can be really, really helpful in sort of vetting who you're getting involved with. Perfect. But absolutely, if you're really serious about UK business, you need a person, you need boots on the ground here.
Thank you.
On that note, I remember hearing a phrase that the UK is the biggest small market in the world. So having people who know people is wonderful, and of course take all the free help. And on that note, we're coming to Neil. If you'd like to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Hassan. Yeah, hi everyone. Very timely that I put my hand up just as Eva started mentioning the AHSNs. My name's Neil Toner. I'm Programme Manager from Yorkshire and Humber AHSN. So we cover the Leeds region, and I work very closely with Jen Robson, who presented earlier today. Really, just on the points that have been raised there about how you kind of navigate the NHS and get support and get those conversations with the right people. It's really just to promote the Academic Health Science Network. We're basically the innovation arm of the NHS, and we're seen as a kind of honest broker for companies who want to work in the healthcare system. So in my team, we support hundreds of companies every year to have discussions with NHS contacts to understand the landscape, like DTAC or funding options, to look at clinical research and academic options that they might have. So we're embedded within our region in Yorkshire and Humber, but there's 15 AHSNs across the whole of the country, and they all have a kind of open door to SMEs to get in touch and support them. And I think Eva's worked very closely with a couple of AHSNs to allow her to access key NHS people, to better understand the market, to have those honest conversations, and we are even able to help with business cases and value propositions as well, so that when you are then put in front of an NHS contact, that we've helped you to develop that, so it's really focused on what the NHS want to hear. And I've worked with numerous companies from New Zealand, Canada, Norway and Sweden to help them focus on the key things. And also we're willing to honestly tell you whether or not actually this is a crowded market, you're going to struggle, it's going to be difficult. We don't mind telling you that, because we don't want to waste your time ultimately. And also because we're so embedded within the NHS within our region, we're able to say this is the unmet need that the team here are focusing on, to give you a real insight into what's happening on the ground with the NHS. So I'll post a couple of links in the chat for people to use, but I would really encourage anyone from outside the UK to get in contact with an AHSN, pick a random one, or just go through the main network, or come to us in the Yorkshire and Humber region. We're quite focused on promoting international work as well. So yeah, it's really just an open door there for people to use.
Thanks, Neil. And I do highly recommend Yorkshire and Humber HSN for your approach and your openness. And I've got to admit, as a Londoner, and this is, everyone can hear this coming. As a Londoner, sometimes it can be hard to get the attention of those in London. It's busy, it's noisy, it's difficult to get people on your side. When you do get it, it's great, but sometimes it's easier to go to places where people are more open to hearing you for the very first time, and Yorkshire Humber have always been really good at that. So Neil, thank you so much for that. Now we've got a few more moments. I'd like to ask if there's anyone in the room who has any follow-up questions, anything at all, please raise your hand, write it in. We don't mind if you write it, you don't have to come onto camera if you're not comfortable. And if there isn't anything coming from that audience, I'm gonna ask for closing comments. I'm gonna do it with Uni, then Eva, then Liz, if that's okay in that order. I can't see any more questions coming, so Uni, over to you. Closing comments from you, please.
The closing comment I guess I want to say is that the UK is very open, very much open for business. We're a very collaborative bunch, and if you come across people, they'll be very honest if they have the answers and if they don't. Yes, we want to welcome any companies who may wish to put their footprint here and also connect to the right people. So I just want to say thank you very much for giving the time to listen in for today.
Thank you so much. Eva.
I have to say that the AHSN network at large is an incredible resource in terms of both the local expertise, but also understanding the nationwide landscape. And giving Yorkshire gave us very honest feedback, which was incredibly helpful to us and has helped us to progress our traction with the NHS colleagues. And generally speaking, UK healthcare economy is really large compared to what happens in the Nordic states. It is a good opportunity to come and tap into. The healthcare population, there's healthcare inequalities, other challenges, connectivity, digital divides, etc., etc. At the same time, a lot of the digital technology products are designed precisely to overcome those kinds of issues. So it's a really great healthcare economy to come and try to interact with.
Thank you so much. And to Liz.
Thank you. So it all starts with trust. Use the opportunity to be able to prove that what your technology says it does, that it does, and then absolutely partner with people who are already working in the space. And what's great is once you get a part of the UK using your solution, you'll see that other parts of the UK will adopt. And what you'll also be able to see is that that brand from the UK, particularly the NHS brand, you can then take back into other countries because it is a global brand. So I do think, although it's not the easiest market to get into or navigate, you have to be tenacious. It is absolutely worthwhile.
Thank you. And that's actually a line that I'd like to echo. If you are looking for global domination, come into the UK, we'll support you, and we will help you be a springboard out into the world. And that's what the Department for International Trade, the DIT, is hoping that it can achieve. Come in, work with us, make things better for yourself and for UK. And I hope that we'll get to work together. Anyone here on the panel, you're welcome, I'm guessing, for people to contact you. That's what you guys are offering. And your details are available. People like Neil, as an example, Neil Toner has also put his email address in the chat. Take advantage of all of the free help, and thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to thank Uni, Eva, and Liz for joining us, and thank you. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Hassan. Bye.